Now, a movie with so much copyrighted music by a notoriously litigious band that even if my channel wasn't already ineligible for monetization, this video would most likely be demonetized anyway. Scooby-Doo and Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery was released digitally on July 10th, 2015, and then on physical media on July 21st. Spike Brandt and Tony Cervone returned to direct, and the film was written by Jim Krieg and Kevin Shinnick. Yes, Gen X and early millennial viewers, that Kevin Shinnick.
And here's your Time Pilot Squadron leader, Kevin Shinnick! Kevin? Kevin? Kevin!
As we've mentioned, Scooby-Doo as a franchise is no stranger to crossovers, and interestingly, this movie is also not the first time Kiss has been involved in a Hanna-Barbera-related production, as the studio famously, or infamously, also produced Kiss's only live-action film, 1978's Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. But we're not here to talk about that movie, although it does provide a strong influence on this one. Hell, we're not even here to talk about that particular Kiss lineup. By the time of this movie's production, original members Peter Criss and Ace Frehley had left the band and been replaced by drummer Eric Singer and guitarist Tommy Thayer, both adopting the makeup designs originated by Criss and Frehley. Founding members Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley still remained with the band and, like Singer and Thayer, provided their own voices for the film. The movie treats the members of Kiss as if they were their stage personas. As such, they are not referred to as Gene, Paul, Eric, and Tommy, but instead as the Demon, the Starchild, the Catman, and the Spaceman. To keep things straight, I will be doing the same, okay? Okay. And speaking of departures, another change to the gang's voice cast was imminent. A new Scooby TV series, Be Cool Scooby-Doo, had been in production and was set to premiere in October of 2015. During production of that series, the role of Velma had been recast and given to actress and comedian Kate Micucci. As such, this movie would be Mindy Cohn's final appearance as Velma, a role she had held for 13 years. The film opens at the self-explanatory Kiss World amusement park, where two maintenance men, voiced by Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, are trying to figure out why every photo taken on the roller coaster has a strange red haze in it. They find out the reason almost immediately.
Witch! Give me Bob! Yeah!
The Crimson Witch, as we'll find out she's called later, sends the maintenance workers hurtling on the roller coaster while blasting energy bolts at them and demanding a rock of some sort. The workers finally reach the end of the ride and rush to report what happened to the park's manager, Manny Goldman, played by Gary Marshall.
Only one thing we can do. Get me the hottest mystery solvers in the world.
So, of course, we assume the gang are called in, and also, of course, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo are Kiss fans. Velma's decided to get involved in her friend's interests, and Daphne... well, Daphne has interests of her own.
Well, I'm pretty interested in Starchild. He's so dreamy. Hey!
Sorry, everyone.
Yep, the on-again, off-again romance subplot is back. Also, Fred is not a fan of Kiss, preferring other types of music.
Oh no, don't tug my ascot, don't pull my ascot.
Fun fact, the singing done by the Ascot Five in this song is actually done by Kiss themselves, and honestly, even though it's a gag, that's some pretty solid barbershop work right there. The gang arrive at the park only to find the Crimson Witch is scaring every park attendee out of the place, which is immediately contradicted when the gang meet Delilah Domino, head of security, who tells them that the park is closed. Whoops. Anyway, Delilah doesn't know anything about the gang showing up, and it turns out...
Okay, the thing is, no one actually called for our help.
What?
I mean, look at that poster of Starchild. He stares at me wherever I go.
So does the Mona Lisa. But you don't see us on a plane to Italy.
Jackass!
So the gang are sent packing, but we know the gang, they aren't going to walk away from a mystery. After getting changed, the gang sneaks back into the park. As they do, Delilah talks to Goldman, who informs her that yes, he did call in backup, much to her dismay. Fred, Velma, and Daphne manage to hear Manny talking to Chip McCoo, who is apparently in charge of selling Kiss merch while they're on tour, and doesn't like it whenever the band comes back to the park since they aren't out on the road in other cities. Meanwhile, the boys, goofing around with a water shooting game, make a costly mistake. The boys run into Delilah, literally, and Manny shows up to find out what's going on. Velma and Daphne explain they want to help so people will come back to the park. And then...
Oh, they'll come back to see us.
And after some pretty kick-ass opening credits, we return to the park, where Fred gets into a mystery-solving pissing contest with the demon.
The Ascot 5 would welcome our help.
Well, I guess we're no Ascot 5, so scram.
While most of the band blows the gang off, Starchild pulls them aside for a conference, stating that he's seen the future and that the gang will help them catch the Crimson Witch. Spaceman and Catman go along with it, the demon being the only dissenter. Outvoted, the band lets the gang join in on the investigation. After looking through the security footage of the witch rampaging through the park, apparently looking for something, Velma asks to see the areas of the park where she appeared.
Count me out. The demon needs to feed the beast.
He means his stomach.
Oh, then my beast is growing too.
While the rest of the gang head out to investigate, Shaggy and Scooby go in search of food, and fall foul of the demon. Again. After the predictable happens, the boys hightail it out of there and decide to check out the rides. Unknown to them, however... The band gives the rest of the gang a tour of the park while Shaggy and Scooby experience the rides. Velma points out the coaster from the beginning of the movie, the Destroyer, and the gang are informed the ride's been closed since the repairmen were scared off earlier. And then we get more of Fred's insecurities.
I'm sorry, Velma, but I can't compete with Starchild.
Remember, underneath all that makeup is just a regular guy who puts his pants on like everyone else.
Which, of course, serves as a prompt for Kiss to change costumes. In a way, classic anime fans should find very familiar.
Oh, come on.
Right there with you, Fred. As it turns out, the whole costume change thing was a dress rehearsal for the concert. The demon again gets annoyed with having to play tour guide, and the band tell the gang they're taking a break when they're really going off to investigate on their own. Meanwhile, the gang meet the head tech for the show, Shandy Strutter. And Fred gets passive-aggressive.
I prefer the Ascot 5 myself.
Do they have an army?
It's more of an all-volunteer international organization of enthusiastic youths.
Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby check out the Rock and Flume ride and run right into the Crimson Witch, which triggers another Kiss number and a chase, which I'm going to skip over because, you know, Kiss song, YouTube, automatic blocking, so yeah. Fortunately for the boys, Kiss shows up and, honestly, a pretty kick-ass fight scene happens where the band displays superpowers, drives up the witch, and takes off right before the rest of the gang show up. Scooby and Shaggy pass out and are taken to the park's infirmary. The boys tell everyone what happened, but Kiss doesn't back up their story, and of course the rest of the gang don't believe Kiss actually has superpowers. Yeah, it's gonna be another one of those situations where real supernatural stuff happens, but the rest of the gang either doesn't see it themselves, or things will be contrived so they don't believe it actually happened. More on that later. And it's at this point the woman who was watching Shaggy and Scooby earlier makes an entrance. And what an entrance.
You must leave! Trust me, Kiss. These children are nothing but trouble. They must go now, or all is lost!
This is Shakara, the fortune teller, and her ominous pronouncements of doom spark the obligatory splitting up. Velma goes with Spaceman to talk to Shakara, Daphne heads back to the drum ride with Starchild to try to pick up the witch's trail, and of course Fred tags along with them. The demon checks out completely, leaving Shaggy and Scooby with Catman. At the drum ride, Fred manages to get some residue from the red mist the witch leaves behind, and then is forced to take pictures of Daphne and Starchild together.
Ah, Fred! Your thumb was in the way! On all of them!
Of course, Starchild ends up with the last laugh.
No worries. I got one of the both of you in vibrant, colorful acrylic. Oops. Well, look, my thumb got in the way.
Daphne finds a trapdoor. Right after this happens.
Not bad, but I am not into tap dancing.
which leads down to the catacombs, a network of service tunnels that run under the park, much like the ones at the Magic Kingdom at Disney World. Theorizing that this is how the witch appears and disappears, the three of them head down to investigate. Meanwhile, Velma and Spaceman go to see Shikara, where we get backstory about what the witch may be up to, which is tied to another world called Kysteria. According to Shikara, in Kysteria, the Crimson Witch created an entity called the Destroyer, but the inhabitants used mystic crystals to seal it in a volcano, then transferred the energy into one object, the Rock of Kysteria, and sent it over to our world, supposedly. With the rock gone, the Destroyer can't be released, which is apparently what the witch wants, and wants it by Halloween, which is now. Welcome to the wonderful world of 70s glam rock lore, kids. So where's the rock now?
Today, these guardians are known as Kings!
You guys have it?
Yep.
Of course, Velma doesn't believe a word of any of this, getting her and Spaceman kicked out. Back in the catacombs, Fred and Daphne lose Starchild, but do find Chip, who claims to have been down there checking the props for the concert. Hearing a ghostly wail, Fred and Daphne follow it, where it turns out to be, in effect, in Shandy Strutter's lab, which is also where Starchild is. Shandy takes them to the chem lab. Chemicals have been going missing from it over the last few weeks, so she put it on lockdown and has the only key. She goes to analyze the residue from the witch. Meanwhile, Catman has Scooby and Shaggy doing roadie work. While moving equipment and props, the boys find the green room, the obligatory buffet, and a classic Scooby-Doo gag, which, honestly, I don't think we'd seen in a while during this era of movies.
The sandwich delivery guy? The creepy witch? The sushi delivery guy?
The witch brings the monster Kiss props to life, causing the boys to hide in a closet. However, the pounding on the door suddenly stops. Opening the door, they find Velma and Daphne, but the Kiss monsters have vanished. The gang regroup, and while they have a plethora of suspects, none of them seem to have a solid motive. Since everything seems to revolve around the rock, Daphne convinces Starchild to use it as bait for the witch. The demon, naturally, hates this plan.
I do not like this.
It's going to be fine.
How do you know? Oi.
The rock turns out to be a gigantic black diamond, which is probably enough motive for anybody. Shaggy and Scooby are sent out with it as bait. Don't ask why they're wearing Kiss's boots, it's stupid. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Delilah is informed that the concert is back on since Kiss thinks they and the gang can catch the witch before showtime. She's not happy about this. Out in the park, the witch shows up and manages to snag the rock. And speaking of snagging, the rest of the gang trap the witch with net guns, leading to the...
Jesus Christ.
And here's where things get weird, as Kiss go full superhero mode, and the witch literally rips open a hole in reality, sucking Scooby, Shaggy, and the Rock through it, and following after, closing the rip behind her. Fortunately, Kiss has a backup plan.
Activate the Dynasty Star Portal!
You mean the Ferris wheel?
Oh, shut up.
And here is where Velma's current position as the gang's resident skeptic starts to become annoying going forward. Did you not just see what happened, Velma? Anyway, Kiss opened the portal to Kysteria, bringing the rest of the gang with them. This triggers another chase set to I Was Made for Lovin' You, which again you will not hear because YouTube. The chase comes to an end when the witch manages to grab the rock and escape. Kiss and the gang arrive in Kysteria proper, which of course Velma still doesn't think is real.
Come on, Daphne, we're still in the theme park. We've seen Stranger Things.
And I bet you spent every minute watching it criticizing how inaccurate that particular hit Netflix show is, you killjoy. Oh, we're gonna get in depth with how annoying this aspect of Velma's current characterization is a little further down the road. Believe me. Kiss takes the gang to meet the Elder.
A shadow has fallen across Kysteria, and your arrival here only confirms the worst.
Did you boys remember to get my smokes? Anyway, Fred tries to impress everyone.
I'm ready, Your Majesty.
Fred, is that makeup?
Looks like a black eye.
It's not.
Nice shiner.
It's a moon.
The Elder informs the group that they're all going to have to work together to defeat the Destroyer, and they head out to the volcano. Also, if you're getting tired of Velma's sarcasm, the demon gets a chance to put her in her place.
Be careful with that base.
Because it's made from alien technology?
Because it costs more than your house.
We then get a little info on how Kiss's superpowers work. They, like everything in Kysteria, are powered by rock and roll. And you know what? I can go with this. Makes as much sense as everything else in this album cover world. The demon's fire breath, however, comes from something else.
The secret to breathing fire is to swallow your fears.
Fears?
Arriving at the volcano, Kiss springs into action, but the witch sends a flock of harpies to take out the gang. Starchild heads after the witch, while the rest of the band protect the gang. Velma continues to be in denial.
This is one heck of a theme park attraction!
Later. However, Scooby and Shaggy get cornered by one of the harpies and put what they've learned to good use. Starchild tries to take on the witch solo, but despite his efforts, she manages to use the rock to unleash the destroyer. The witch escapes back through a portal awaiting the destroyer's arrival on Earth. Realizing the danger, the group agrees to work together, even the demon. And since everything from Kysteria runs on music, all they have to do is make enough rock and roll to overload the destroyer. Maybe even too much rock and roll.
Ain't no such thing.
Look, you're Kiss. If anyone can make too much rock and roll, it's you.
Alright, I'll give Velma that one. Kiss heads back to Kiss World to start the concert in preparation, while the gang are left with one of Kiss's other vehicles, the Kiss Craft, to distract the destroyer. Cue another Kiss song, Detroit Rock City, while the gang lure the destroyer back through the portal to the park. As they get closer, Kiss's powers manifest in the tunnel and take out the destroyer, but it destroys the Kiss Craft in the process, knocking the gang out and sending them through the portal back to the park. Of course, this provides the perfect impetus to cop out of everything we just saw.
Her witch haze is really a gas that messes with your senses and creates illusions.
It was all a figment of our imaginations.
Again, we'll discuss this in depth at another time. Anyway, about the only thing that anyone can agree on is that the witch still has the rock. The gang head to the locker room where Fred finds it in one of the lockers. Of course, the witch shows up and a game of keep away ensues, with Kiss showing up to help with the reveal.
She's Delilah Domino, the head of security. When Delilah mentioned that she worked for a government defense company, we did some research.
When? When did you do that, Velma? Because you made this same bogus claim in Aloha Scooby-Doo. Anyway, Delilah was planning on stealing the diamond and selling it to a competing company, stashing it in her locker while the concert was going on. So the gang and Kiss make their goodbyes. Even the demon gives a reluctant compliment, Fred and Starchild shake hands, and Daphne gets what she's been after this whole movie.
I think she'd settle for a handshake. Or an autograph.
When you dwell on the past while he pounds our sweet naturale.
And Velma gets smug.
Do you know what was the best thing about this adventure? The fact that my philosophy remains intact.
Of course, as you might expect, Shaggy and Scooby lag behind just long enough to make the audience question exactly what was real in this movie.
You think we should tell her?
No. Why rock her world?
Good point.
Scooby-Doo and Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery is actually really fun. It would be easy for one team of characters or the other to dominate this story, but the movie strikes a really good balance. The members of Kiss aren't entirely buddy-buddy with the gang outright, and the same is true in reverse. The visuals are interesting, especially the Jack Kirby-esque style of the Kysteria sequences. Of course, the music is fantastic, with Kiss turning in, as other reviewers have mentioned, what sounds like new recordings of their songs, as opposed to just grabbing them off the albums. The Crimson Witch is one of the more interesting monsters we've had, both in terms of personality and design. And the whole movie has this delightful, over-the-top, super theatrical tone that fits with a movie starring Kiss. Yes, Velma gets a little unbearable here, but that's mostly due to other issues I'll bring up another time. For now, make an effort to see this one. It's worth it. And so it's time to bring down the house on another of the 30-plus films of Scooby-Doo.
Those meddling kids to join the chase. No creep can keep them away.